Hey everyone, today we are diving into a topic that can be very uncomfortable for a lot of us. It's talking to our kids about sex and sexuality. But don't worry, we have an amazing guest to help us navigate it. Okay, so welcome back to the Emotionally Intelligent Parenting Podcast. You guys know me, I'm Stephanie Pinto, your host. Today, I sat down with Vanessa Hamilton. She is a sexuality educator with over 25 years of experience, a mum to 3 teens, and she's the founder of Talking the Talk Sexuality Education. She has spoken, guys, to tens of thousands of people about this topic. So she has plenty of wisdom to share with us. And I wanted this for myself. And so I knew how to deal with these things with my 2 kids as well. So it was a little bit selfish. Okay, so we need to really face the fact that the internet is everywhere now. And so our kids are constantly surrounded by it. And that means they're getting exposed to basically content we would rather them not see. So as parents, we really cannot stick our head in the sand. We need to be prepared and have open and honest conversations with our kids. And that's exactly what Vanessa is here to help us with. Phew. Okay, so we're going to cover things like when to start these talks, how much should we share, how to approach those tough subjects like explicit content and pornography. How do we deal with when our kids are resistant and they're sticking their fingers in their ear and they're like, I don't want to hear this. So Vanessa is also going to give us some really practical tips on how to make these conversations much more comfortable and natural. Now, just in case this is your first time here, I want to say welcome to the podcast. I am Stephanie Pinto, the host. I'm a best-selling author, international speaker, and emotional intelligence coach. I'm super passionate about helping parents just like you to raise confident, emotionally resilient kids. So just first, let me be clear, we are not perfect parents. We are not perfect in our home. And like in any other family, we have our share of big emotions. But meltdowns are honestly rare. And instead of chaos, we turn to tools like listening, problem solving, connection, conflict resolution when challenges come up. So now our home has become a much more peaceful, punishment-free zone where everyone's emotions are understood and respected. So this journey has only been possible because we've learned how to manage our own emotions whilst also teaching our kids how to navigate theirs. We face parenting challenges together calmly and with mutual respect. Yes, we still have disagreements and arguments, but we get through them. And I am here to help you guys do the same. Just before we begin, I want to acknowledge the Darug Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I live, work, and record this podcast. I pay my respects to all First Nations people, elders, and their ancestors, and I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, and I stand in solidarity towards a shared future. Okay, so Vanessa, just before we get started, you want to give everyone a quick message?
Yeah, just a bit of a content warning about today's chat. Sometimes people's experiences of sex and sexuality are not positive ones, and having these conversations can be a bit difficult for people. So really only listen or watch this when you're feeling up to it. If you're having difficulty, turn it off and come back to it another time. But think about getting some support for yourselves. This conversation today is certainly not for children. So absolutely not for in the car when there's kids there. So please take care of yourselves. We'll be talking about some topics such as child sexual abuse throughout.
Okay, hi Vanessa, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am good. I'm just a little bit under the weather. We were talking offline just before. I had a little skin cancer removed from my ear, so I hope that I don't have a bit of brain fog that I did this morning, because I'm really excited to talk to you.
It's great to be here.
Okay, so let us know, just as we jump in, a bit about you and your work for people who haven't got one of your books yet. I'm going to hold those up a little bit later because as well as you guys listening on the podcast, this is going on YouTube as well. So I'm going to show you guys the books and what they look like. But yeah, give us a bit of a rundown on who you are.
Sure. My name's Vanessa Hamilton. My business is Talking the Talk Healthy Sexuality Education. I've been a sexual health nurse for over 25 years. There's so many now. I've stopped adding years to that. I don't know how many it is. Um, and I started working in sexual health quite by accident when I was a backpacker in London. I started working in HIV nursing back in the early 90s. Fast forward to now, when I was a parent, I had a 5-year-old who asked me a question and it was really difficult to answer. And I thought, I wonder if there's a business in helping teachers and parents have conversations with their kids about sex and sexuality. And so I started the business, and I've had the privilege of teaching sexuality education into schools from prep to year 12. COVID put a stop to that. So now my content is all online, and I train teachers and deliver parent sessions and provide the done for you content for schools. And it's a much better use of my time because I can access so many schools.
And
Um,
so many people can hear your message. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. And I've had the absolute privilege of co-authoring a consent book, Kit and Arlo Find a Way, which is a consent resource for 8 to 12-year-olds. It's a fun chapter book with lots of educational resources with it. Award-winning, multi-award winning. Last year we won 2
Woohoo.
awards, yeah. And more recently, Talking Sex, a conversation guide for parents, which is pretty much all my signature information in one place.
So I'm holding it up for you guys on YouTube who are able to see. But tell me why you just said offline before we hit record that you didn't even want the word sex on the cover. It is on the cover.
No.
So why? Like, tell us a bit about that.
The publishing team negotiated with me and we managed to put it on. But as you can see there, all the words in between are actually what these conversations are about. The reason I didn't want sex on there is I think sex is a really unhelpful word. People often just think of being male and female, and they often think of one particular type of sexual encounter, heterosexual, P in V. And that's not what conversations with kids are. Human sexuality is lifelong from birth to death. And the conversations hardly have anything to do with what we think of when we hear the word sex. It's so much more than that. And we'll dive into some of those topics today.
Wow. Okay, that's fascinating. So my first and most important question is, I have a son and a daughter, and 7 and 10. Can I at least palm off my son to my husband to have the talk with him?
The gender doesn't matter of children as far as the conversations that happen from the adults in the household, and the gender doesn't matter of the adults either. The most important thing is that someone's having conversations with the kids. I'll give you my take-home message right now, and that is, who do you want to be who do you want to be the person who gives this information to your child? Who do you want them to get their information about sex, sexuality, respectful relationships and consent? You want it to be you or another adult at home, if there's another adult at home, rather than them getting it from popular culture, advertising, pornography, TikTok, gaming, TV, which is where they're currently getting their messages from. It doesn't matter who the adults in your house are doing is giving the information, as long as it's someone giving reliable information with lots of positive conversations.
Yeah, positive conversations. And I like that. If we think about, even for my 2 kids, who do I want to be the person to talk to my kids about these things? I'm like, I want it to be me or my husband, because we
Yeah.
at least have enough information. We're not, going to be like just the stuff on the internet these
Yeah.
days, I think. And like you said, gaming, and it's virtually everywhere. And it's almost like an uphill battle. I don't know. Do you find the parents and teachers that you talk to, it's front and
Yeah.
center right now?
Yeah, it is. And kids are getting a sexuality education every day from the world around them, whether we like it or not. But we want it from 2 places, home and the classroom as well. We want accurate information from the classroom. It is pervasive in our society, and kids are getting these messages. But most adults struggle with it because most adults had an inadequate sexuality education themselves. When I ask the question at parent sessions, the majority say that they had very limited accurate information. I had one biology lesson in year 8. That was mine.
Yeah.
So I do ask parents to do your research, do a bit of background information first, so you know what you need to say and at what ages. And I can cover a little bit of that in a minute. But also for parents to think about, to remove the fear and danger approach that we grew up with and replace it with a positive, joyful approach for thinking about your child ending up having respectful relationships and positive experiences through their life. And it starts early. It starts with naming body parts in a shame-free way when you're changing nappies. That
Wow.
is a sexuality education. That's not talking about sex, is it? That's sexuality education, because we know that when children have the accurate names for their body parts in a shame-free way, one, it gives them vocabulary to report if something's wrong or something's happening to them, but it also helps them with communication throughout their life.
Yeah. Okay. So sometimes I think we often wonder, what is the appropriate age to start talking about these topics? Should we wait until our child brings it up? I feel like I know your answer on this, but should we initiate the conversations ourselves? So when is the right time to talk about do we want to talk about, is it sex or is it sexuality? It feels like it's a broader
Mm.
topic and understanding, and kind of rather than just, like you said,
It,
the act.
It's more about relationships. That's right. I'll tell you how you can talk about the act and at what age in a minute. But basically, back to your question is, when should you start? We go back to what I said before. Who do you want to be the person who delivers
Mm.
this information first? So you need to think about when you need to say that, so you are the first person, so they don't hear it in the playground. And it's often earlier than parents think that they need to have these conversations. And kids are okay with it. That it'll just go over their head if it's too much information. So, for example, so we've talked about naming body parts. The next thing you do for the toddlers is protective behaviours, because they're going off to kinder and childcare,
Mm.
and so you do the 5 body safety rules. And then, so talking about the amazing story of how humans reproduce, because it's a great story. It's just fascinating. Humans are amazing. There's lots of different ways babies can be created. But I'll give you the spiel, if you like, of the most common
Yes.
way.
Yes, please.
And parents can take it or leave it. They can add bits in, whatever. But here's an
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
And you can say this you can say this easy around 5, 6, 7, 8. You want to be the person who gives them this information. So it can go with it with a 5-year-olds, keep it quite simple about a sperm and an egg and that sort of thing. But I'll give you the spiel and you can adapt it. So there's lots of ways to create babies. The most common way is when 2 people decide they want to make a baby, a person with testicles and a penis and a person with ovaries and a vagina. They decide they want to make a baby. They talk a lot about it. They love and respect each other. Add in married if that's your values, whatever. They love and respect each other. What they'll do is they'll choose a private place and time. They'll be enjoying each other's bodies, usually with no clothes on. When they're ready, the vagina will accept the penis. The penis will deliver the sperm, and the sperm will travel up to meet the egg. Full stop. There you go.
Done. It took
Most
you
kids,
15 seconds.
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
There you go. There's the sex talk. And kids will just say, most kids will go, "Oh, great. Can I have a biscuit?"
Yeah.
They're really not that fussed. And parents tell me that. If they're a bit older, they might say, "That's weird.
Mm.
Ooh, why would they do something like that?" That's your opportunity to say, yes, kids think that's weird, or they giggle, or they think that's strange, because it's not for kids. That's
Mm.
for adult bodies, minds, adults' minds. I can't get the words out. Adults' mind and bodies only. And it takes many, many years for bodies to be able and minds to be ready for that activity. And adults actually like doing it, because adult bodies actually find that pleasurable. And you can go on, and depending on their ages, again, especially, if they're older, you need to get talking about laws and that sort of thing. There's actually a law in our state where they say that 16 is the age that people, there's caveats around that, but you don't need to include
Yeah.
those when you're introducing these topics. But there's a law of 16 where they think their bodies and minds aren't ready for it. And then your values. Our expectation is that, especially if they're older, that people wouldn't have those sexual encounters and experiences till they were in a relationship with someone,
Yeah.
etc.
Okay.
Um,
So I have a question.
mm,
What happens when parents might worry that if they're talking about it, then that's going to kind of, I don't know, give the green light, or it might encourage, or it might just magically get kids wanting to go search for,
mm,
more information or talk about it. Like, they worry that, no, that's like too
mm.
much. What do you say to that?
What I say to that is giving information is not giving permission, number one.
Mm.
Number two, we know that from those countries who do this well,
Mm.
countries like the Netherlands, for example, who have open conversations with children all
Oh,
the time, they actually their adolescents delay first sexual intercourse to a later age.
do
They have
they?
less, yes, they have less unintended pregnancies, less sexually transmitted infections, and report much better health, well-being, respectful, consensual sexual encounters, because they've had good open information throughout their whole life that's accurate and age appropriate. I promise you, it's protective.
Oh my God, isn't that huge? I feel like
It's
I
massive.
want to repeat all that. I won't, but
Yeah.
talking about it, what did you say? Talking about is not discussing it is not giving
Information is not
permission.
permission, especially when you add your values and you say, we wouldn't expect you to start those encounters until, and notice I'm saying encounters and
Yeah, you're saying
experiences.
encounters and experiences. Why?
Why? Because I'm not saying have P and V heterosexual sex,
Yeah.
the children may be gender diverse or same gender attracted, or sexuality diverse. So keeping that open language is really helpful. Just on language, because I know parents are going, oh, I don't know what to say. What if I say the
Yes,
wrong thing?
please talk
What if
about.
I
I know.
harm them? What if they go looking for it? Every parent thinks that.
Mhm.
You won't harm them. It'll just go over their head if it's too much. But believe me, they do need the information. And why not? Because you're looking at it in a positive way. But about language, you don't have to know all the language. It's okay to say to the kids, look, bear with me while I try and find the words. No one ever spoke to me about this, and I don't want that to be the case for you. So just bear with me while I find the words.
Oh, bear with me
Mm.
while I find the words. Like, because
Yeah.
one of my questions was, what if our kids ask us a question that we don't know the answer to? I feel like we're worried that we're going to be caught off guard or that we can't answer. And then that creates this anxiety about having the conversation in the first place.
That's going to happen. You're going to get questions you didn't expect, and that's okay. So be ready for it. You put your poker face on. And even though you're panicking inside, you say, that's a great question. I'm so glad you come and asked me about that. What do you know about that already? Or what made you think of that? And that buys you
Mm.
so much time to think, or a bit more time to think about what you're going to say. But you also hear back from them where they're at. They might tell you the whole story and you're like, I didn't know you knew that. So
Whoa. Okay. So what were those questions? How much, what do you know already?
yeah. Oh, but remember, you are the askable, tellable parent they need.
Mhm.
You just check you're not giving off the vibe, don't come and ask me, I feel too awkward, I don't have the language. You've got to be, ask me anything. So what was the question I said? So thanks for asking. What do you know about that already, or where did you hear about that? So,
Okay.
and the other thing is you can say and I'm not being specific with ages here, so adults can interpret it themselves. To me, children is 17 and under. I'll try and be more specific if it's relevant, but you can say to them, we have lots of conversations in our household. You can ask us anything, even if you think it's rude or you might get in trouble. You won't get in trouble. But it's not your job to teach the other kids at school. That's their adult's job. So it's not really a playground conversation.
Wow. Okay. That's another really helpful tip because I've also thought, oh, if we talk to, so my son is the older one. If we talk to about, and he went to a session at school last year when he was in year 3, he would have been.
Mm.
And yeah, you're right. Like we spoke about some things afterwards and some of it just, it went over his head and then he asked for a biscuit. Like it was, but yeah, I do like that you can say to them, this is the stuff that we talk about in our house. You can always ask me, but this isn't really a playground conversation. This is for other kids, parents to talk to them. They might have different values and different ways to explain it.
Yeah. And as we're circling back to what you said before about otherwise, where are they going to get the information from? They might go looking for it. Number one, you need to put in your blockages and your locks on your computers and things. People, please do
Mm-hmm.
that. Go to the e-safety commissioner, have that on speed dial. No unsupervised screens in bedrooms and bathrooms, please, for younger children. That becomes a challenge as they get a bit older. But, my 14-year-old had a sleepover recently and I set up a charging station in another area of the house and the phones have to be on the chargers at 11 o'clock and we prearrange that. And that just happens in our household. Kids do not need the internet at a sleepover at 11 o'clock at night. Their brains aren't thinking clearly. So for them looking it up, look, kids, the average age of seeing pornography is 13 years old in
Jeez.
Australia, and many instances of seeing it much younger than that. And the problem with that is that the mainstream online pornography that they're exposed to depicts sexual encounters as violent, degrading, lack of consent. And, if that's their only frame of reference and message that they've got, that's what a relationship or sexual
I
encounter
know.
looks like.
That's going to be their blueprint. They're like, oh, okay, this is
Correct.
what it is. Okay.
We need to counterbalance that. We need to talk, this bubble over here of classroom and home conversations should be the main one. You need to talk to your blue in the face about positive, pleasurable, amazing, wonderful, connected partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
And talk in the car because you're both facing forward or doing dishes.
Yeah.
In the car is a good one. The doors are
I,
shut.
I remember reading in your book because they're a captive audience, and I was like,
Yeah.
yes, they
I
are.
feel a bit, I don't, not captive as in you're going to restrain them and they have to have the conversation. Because some kids
Yeah.
are like, la, la, la,
Yeah.
la, la, I don't want to hear this,
Yeah.
and that's okay. You can say to them, especially the 15-year-olds go, roll their eyes. I get some of that.
Mhm.
To say, look, I know this feels awkward and I know you're embarrassed about it. Me too. But I just need 5 minutes of your time to tell you something really important.
Mm.
And talking in the car, turn on commercial radio. There is so many teachable moments. So you want to be the askable, tellable parent using teachable moments that are everywhere. Commercial radio, song lyrics, call them out. Why is he saying, making out that he's such a great lover when he's being really disrespectful about his girlfriend?
Yeah.
The ads, I use the ad. There was an ad came on. I had a 12-year-old in the car of mine, and there was an ad for laser eye surgery. Mr. Jones, you left your glasses in the massage parlor. I used that teachable moment to teach the child what prostitution, sex work, and a massage parlor was before they went and go to learn it at secondary school.
Oh my
Age
goodness.
appropriately, and they come and ask me about it again 6 months later.
Wow. Okay, so I'm just writing down something you said before, and I forgot to go back to E-Safety Commissioner. Is that just in Australia? Because there's a lot of people overseas who will be
That
thinking
is in Australia, but and it does reference Australia, but everyone globally can access it.
Okay.
Excellent resources about all sorts of online things, sextortion. Look up sextortion. We won't cover it here too much, but kids are being exposed to sending intimate images and then being extorted for money. I did a presentation this week on AI deepfakes. There's so many levels that is moving quicker than we are, but we've got to get the basics right. And so we've got to start with safety as well, thinking about safety. I mean, it's our responsibility to keep our kids safe, healthy, and well. And we do that. We do the swimming lessons and the healthy eating and how to cross the road and drive a car. Well, teaching them about sex and sexuality is also our responsibility that they deserve. And it's their human right to have information about their bodies and relationships.
That's huge. It's their human right. I'm glad you said that. So you mentioned a little bit before, kids might be blocking the older ones. This is awkward. What do we do if our child seems either disinterested or actively says, "Stop talking about this"?
Yeah.
Where do we go from there?
Yeah, and so as I said on the AI deepfakes session this week about connection with kids, sometimes you just have to go back to connecting with them and start with conversations about lots of things and then ease into it. A few things, teachable statements. So sometimes I just say a statement, not a conversation. I'll just say something. I'll say, "That's interesting they say that on that ad," or "I learned last night about deepfakes that it's not really fake because it really depicts a real person." And I just keep going. I'll just say statements. Buy books. Books are great. They're a great prop for you and for them. I've got a list of book lists on my website that I recommend. You can send them a text. You can, you can say to them, "I know you're feeling," and some kids are a bit squeamish about this and private. And that's okay. They still need the information. So just gently giving those little conversations, say, "Okay, I know you feel weird. Can we just make a time later where we'll just have 7 minutes of something I need to talk to you about?"
Okay. So this is one of the sticky ones with the internet and with media and everything being so accessible. I think a lot of parents are really concerned about kids finding explicit content and pornography online. I know I am. And it's such a, like, I did not get that. I didn't get talked to about this stuff. I got the how was I made? Was that the book? How was I?
Where did I come
Where,
from?
that one. How?
There's much better books than that these days. Don't use that anymore.
That was the one that I got. I literally can still remember the two people in the cartoon image. Anyway, but how do we talk about that stuff without either making it taboo or, I don't know if we worry, like making it tempting for like a 10, my son is 10. I want to be able to explain objectively that it is out there and that it is not for kids' eyes. But I also don't want his brain to go, "Ooh, what? People do, huh?" Like it's, anyway.
It's hard. They are going to see it. So we have to accept that in the first place. It exists, and you can say to them, "I'm sorry, this exists without any protection for you because it isn't good for kids' minds and bodies." You can say things, analogies like, when you see a scary movie and you can't get it out of your head, it can be like that. And I know you're curious, no shame and blame because they can see it accidentally, pop-ups, all the things, or they have gone looking for it. No shame and blame. But to say, I know you're curious, but if you can avoid looking at it, shut the laptop and come and get me. You definitely need your help when it comes up. And don't react with shock, anger, disgust, fear, and all the things when they come and tell you that it's happened. Even though you're feeling that, you need to say, "I'm so glad you told me about it. Let's work through this together." So what age do you think we should tell kids about pornography, Steph?
I have heard and I have seen bits and pieces online of people talking about this, and I want to say, was it 9 to 11? That might,
Mm.
I'm feeling like, is that even too late? Like,
Yeah, that's too late. Yep. So you don't have to mention the word pornography. So we need to tell kids about pornography when they have access to the internet. So when you don't tell a 3-year-old about pornography, but you say to them, the internet's great, and while you're playing that game, if something comes up that makes you confused or gives you your early warning signs, let's remember to go back to early warning signs after this,
okay.
or gives you your early warning signs, you need to turn the iPad over and come and get me. And then your language increases for those ages. So, 7, 8, 9, the internet has content on it that's really harmful for kids' brains, and even adults don't like looking at it. So things like cruelty to animals, war, blood and guts, things like that. But there's also images that they say is adults having sex or is adults with no clothes on, and you need to come and get me when that comes up onto your
Mhm.
screen. And then the older ones, you are talking about what it is and what it isn't. It's
Yeah.
unrealistic. It's made up like a movie. When you watch a movie and there's a driving scene and there's buses crashing and flames and all that, that's not really how you drive a car. Well, online mainstream pornography is also not really how people have wonderful, amazing, intimate partnerships and sexual encounters. And the other thing you realize, that you can say to them, it's not realistic, because people who have really respectful, pleasurable, awesome partnerships, and don't be scared of those words, by the way, they keep it private to themselves. It's not something they would put on the internet. So that's how you know that it's not realistic.
Wow. Okay, that's really, really helpful. And I like the analogies and the metaphors, like the bus and on
Flames,
movies and the crash, like the
yeah,
flames, like that.
they're actors, yeah.
Yes,
They're
I think.
made to look like they're enjoying it, but they're not, usually, often not really.
Yeah, yeah.
Because especially, and say the things, because people don't ask how the other person's feeling or what the other person wants, because we know there's a lack of consent, there's lack of condoms, how long sex goes for, all those sorts of things.
Mm.
And kids can, they might see this at other people's houses. I always ring ahead and say, who's going to be there, what devices on sleepovers. We've got a safe word. Our word is pumpkin. If my child texts me or rings me and says pumpkin, I'll save face for them and make up a reason to go and pick them up. You didn't do the
Oh,
dishwasher, sleepover's over. I'm coming to get you.
wow. Okay,
Yeah.
that's brilliant. I think ours is pineapple, but that was just a
Oh, yeah. Pumpkin, pineapple,
that's
whichever.
if you're roughhousing or tickling too much, pineapple is like stop. So
Oh,
okay, so
okay.
code word is, I
Yeah.
like that. That's a really good one. We mentioned early warning signs.
Yeah, well, I'll quickly go through the body safety. We're sort of going back to younger age groups. Basic my body safety rules. I use My Body What I Say Goes by Janine Sanders. My body belongs to me. I can say no if I don't want to kiss or hug anyone. I can high five or shake their hand instead. So kids need to know that. Now, in some cultures and some families, that they see it as disrespectful that the children don't kiss all the adults and hug them at the
Mm-hmm.
family gathering. But that's not okay. Kids need bodily autonomy. COVID's been great for kids' bodily autonomy, but they need that. Most kids are happy to hug people, but not everyone is a hug-loving person.
Mm.
And you can say to your niece or your nephew or your kids or whatever, to say, when you're ready, I'd love to share a hug with you if you want to. And if they don't, they don't. It's up to the child. So the other thing is your early warning signs. So your body lets you know if you're not safe. So you might get sick in the tummy, wobbly knees. You might feel like you're going to cry. If another kid or an adult makes you feel like that, you have to tell someone on your safety network.
Mm.
So unfortunately, the highest rate of offending of child sexual abuse is in
People known
Australia
to the
is,
child, isn't it?
yeah, known to the child and adolescent males, 15 to 19 years old.
Really?
Yeah, so higher than adults. So we need to
Gosh.
say, if another child or an adult makes you feel like that, you need to tell someone on your safety network. And your safety network, I want them to have 5 named at school and 5 outside of school
Mm.
adults.
Okay.
Um,
So who could they be? Like mum, dad,
Yeah, so or
aunt?
2 mums, 2 dads, whoever's all the adults at home. Not necessarily all the adults at home, but the child chooses.
Mm.
Um, could be a neighbour. I like one of their friends' parents is another one. Some kids whose adults are overseas and don't have a lot of family here or whatever, I let them have an adult that they talk to on Zoom a lot if they need to. But kids helpline and police is another one we can have if they can't
Mm.
name outside of school, but at school, actual teachers. And the reason we need to name so many is because it takes at least 3 adults to believe a child when they disclose sexual abuse. And there's a lot of reasons for that. We don't want to hear it. We don't know what we're listening for. They don't come out and say it straight away. We're too busy.
Mm.
And so I say to kids, if the first adult doesn't listen, you've got to go to the next adult.
Wow.
That's them. And then secrets. No one should ever tell you a secret that gives you early warning signs. No one should ever say, this is just between us, don't tell anyone.
Mm.
You need to tell straight away. I had to tell Nana in the family, no more, don't tell mum about the chocolate biscuits. Sorry, Nana, but we don't have secrets.
Mm.
And especially when something happens online with sextortion, kids are so ashamed. They're not telling adults, and then they're in deeper trouble. And the other one is your body, your private parts are under your bathers, and your private body parts also include your mouth.
Yeah, I remember reading that in your book here, and I thought, oh, that is never something I have considered before. Can you just
Yes.
explain a little bit about that?
Well, we need to say that our mouth, we can kiss people on the cheek,
Mm.
and there's different kisses for different types of attraction and love. So family love or romantic love has
Mhm.
different types of kisses, for example.
Mm.
And the reason we talk about the mouth is related to potential for sexual abuse using the mouth as
Mm.
well. But even though it's out in public and not under clothes, it's still a private area of our body.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's really good.
It's not
Okay.
like our elbow, which is very public, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe the last thing we can cover off is something that I said to you before we hit record. I'm looking through your book. I know there's a page. I think it was 72. I'm going to flick back to
Yeah,
it.
it is 72, yeah.
You have a lot of excellent terms here that explain the diversity of human sexuality. So it's got LGBTQIA plus. You have queer, transgender, non-binary, intersex, lesbian. Like there is so much here. And I thought, I don't even know how to. And obviously, we said it'd come up, and it has, and it did. But maybe how do we talk to our kids about these differences that I was raised with? It's man and woman, it's male and female, very, very much binary. So
Mm,
yeah, what can you share about
mm.
that?
Yeah, so, for parents who worry about, "Oh, don't have the language, I don't understand it, language changes all the time," you don't have to know all the language. We just need to respect everyone's unique version. And using inclusive language because you're not sure that whether your child may be gender diverse, or
Yeah.
same gender attracted. And it's actually quite simple to flip your language to being inclusive. I think I've been pretty inclusive today, which might have been giving some examples. So if you've got a teenager and you're starting the conversations about romantic partnerships at school and that sort of thing, you would say, "Oh, how many in your class have a partner, have a romantic partner, not a boyfriend or a girlfriend?" That tells that child that they're safe to be able to say to you if their sexual orientation is other than heterosexual. If we've got time, I could quickly run through
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
basics.
Yeah, please.
I've done blog posts on this if people want to look into it more. But so just starting with sex, humans are born with a set of sex characteristics, um, chromosomes, hormones, and anatomy, typically medically expected of male or female. But 1.7% of the population are born intersex, where they have variations to the chromosomes, hormones, and anatomy. So it might be that the adults in the room assign the baby as a female because it's got a vulva and a vagina, but it's not noted till later on that they don't have a cervix or a uterus. That's an example of intersex. That's just part of being human. There's over 40 variations related to that. Gender identity is how we feel about ourselves, our own sense of gender. Gender is a social construct. Some cultures don't, gender isn't a thing. Ours is very binary.
Mm.
And it's unique to each person. And we gender everything in the world, in our world, in this culture. Some people believe that everyone's gender must match their sex assigned at birth. And I say to those people, we're all entitled to our own opinion, but we're not entitled to harm other people with that opinion. And gender diversity, some of the language currently around, there's always been language as long as human history. Transgender, gender diverse, gender fluid, non-binary, male, female. We use the term cisgender for people whose gender matches their sex assigned at birth, the majority of the population.
Mm.
As far as expression, it's how you express yourself to the world. Kids have a great conversation about who can have long hair and who can't, who can wear makeup, who can't. A gender inclusive uniform list at a school would just list the shorts straight leg shorts, high cut shorts, rather than boy shorts, girl shorts, and then anyone
Oh,
can wear the shorts. Now,
mhm.
that's not removing boys and girls. When I teach teachers, I talk to them about, rather than saying good morning, boys and girls, it's good morning, grade 5. Now, the boys and girls won't notice that you said that, but the gender diverse child in that classroom will realize that you've greeted them that morning inclusively, and
Wow.
that means a lot. And
Okay.
it's not erasing boy or girl. As
Mm.
far as sexual orientation, people may be attracted to same gender or more than one gender, um, or and that can change over time. Some of the language around that currently in our society is heterosexual, straight, lesbian, gay, bisexual, attraction to more than one gender, pansexual, attraction to someone's personality regardless of gender,
Mm.
asexuality, not experiencing sexual desire or intent. Um, in a nutshell, that's a massive topic in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I
I
apologise. I may have left out a few things there because that was a quick one, but there's lots of resources on my
Mm.
website to learn about that more in
Mm.
depth. And
Okay.
I've done
Yeah.
a podcast for parents
Mm.
on how to respond positively if your child tells you that they're not cisgender and they're not heterosexual.
Oh, oh, brilliant. Yes. Okay. Because I want to ask you where are the places that people can find you. But I do want to, before we mention your links, which by the way, I'll put down either in the show notes, but I'll put down below in the YouTube video as
Sure.
well. So you guys will be able to find out more about Vanessa's work, where to find her and get in touch and things like that. Do you have I'm just holding up your book here. So it's
Mm.
Talking Sex, a conversation guide for parents, Vanessa Hamilton. Do you have a message or something, a last message that if parents can just take this away from the
Yeah.
conversation about this big topic, what is something that you hope that they sort of take away?
Oh, look, to be honest, the kids are not okay. As far as sex and sexuality, safety, respect for relationships, and consent in the world they're currently living in, you need to be their champion. You need to be their main provider of information, as I said before. Don't put your head in the sand. You can do this. They deserve it. Academics are starting to use the term ethical. We know the evidence, which is something I did say before, the evidence tells us when they have age appropriate, accurate information from a young age, they have much better outcomes. So we're starting to say, is it unethical to withhold this information from kids? Do your research, have the conversations. Your kids deserve it and they need it.
Brilliant. And also, I want to, I don't think we talked much about this, but you mentioned it, being an askable and tellable parent. I really
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah. Using teachable moments that are all around you. Yep.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. This has been such a joy. Where can people find out more about you? Where should we funnel people? Because I know there are going to be parents and maybe educators, teachers, therapists, and professionals listening that want to hear more.
Yeah, talkingthetalksexed.com.au is my website, and Instagram is the best place to find up-to-date things that I post nearly every day.
Yep. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks,
Thanks for
Vanessa.
having me. Thanks.
Hey everyone, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. This is something that I did not get taught about, and I am having to overcome some of those spots of discomfort with thinking about talking to my kids about these topics. That said, I love that Vanessa was so, down to earth about it, and it was so natural and so authentic. And I am going to take away personally a lot from the conversation. Okay, so I'm going to hold up these two books. These are Vanessa's two books. You guys listening on the podcast obviously cannot see them. One of them, we mentioned both of them. One of them is Talking Sex, a conversation guide for parents. The other one is Kit and Arlo Find a Way. And that says Teaching Consent for 8 to 12-year-olds. So just quickly, I want to tell you guys a little bit about these. Plus, by the way, I'm going to put her links in the show notes below because you can find obviously how to order that book, both of the books. Also, how to get some virtual classroom education for schools. If you go to talkingthetalksexed.com.au, Vanessa does lots of virtual classroom education talks. And also, you guys can follow her on the socials. She's on Facebook and Instagram. If you look at on Facebook, look at Talking the Talk Education, just search that. Or if you're on Instagram, just search Talking the Talk. And then she's on LinkedIn as well. So two wonderful books. I would love you guys to go and check those out. I hope you really enjoyed the conversation. I did a lot. And I'm going to be like sending it to my husband to be like, babe, you need to listen to this so that we can get on the same page. Okay, have a beautiful rest of your day. I'll see you guys same time, same place next week for another episode.